Other times it's signage, multiple signage, websites, advertising campaigns, wraps on vehicles, product development, then taking that product and deploying it. After all that's done, how expensive do you think it is to rebuild a brand? Right? You could be looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars. In some cases, millions. So investing in the beginning is actually the cheapest way to have a strong brand when you have a successful business. A lot of people say, well, we'll worry about that later. Let's just go ahead, we're gonna go to Fiverr, we're gonna get a logo, and then we're gonna create a strong brand down the road. Well, okay, great, but it's gonna cost you a ton of money depending on how far you've taken your business when you actually decide to develop your brand. So I always suggest in the beginning, make good decisions. Take time to create a real brand, right? And so I tell my grandfather that, but he doesn't care. So anyways, I am from Santa Fe. I was actually born in Espanola. And my family was from Santa Cruz, right? So I would say a suburb of Espanola. And my dad is Taylor. So Taylor in Santa Cruz is definitely a name that's gonna stand out. The other thing is he was light-skinned with red hair. Spoke fluent Spanish and English, and grew up in that small town. And so he grew up very tough, right? And it's because he's from the dirt and he took his licks all the way up until the point where he actually ended up passing away at a young age. But that's where I came from. How many brand creators do you think are in Santa Cruz? Well, not even, because I left. So from there, you know, I ended up, because of issues and drug issues that are kind of an epidemic in that part of the state, right, of New Mexico, I ended up being raised by my grandparents. My brother and I did. And so about third grade, they discovered that I'm dyslexic. And it was because every time they told me to write my name, Robel Taylor, which was already confusing because of Chacho, I'd just draw a little picture of myself. And to me, that was my name, right? And so I had this little picture, and that's me. And so my grandfather talked to me, and he'd say, look, you need to write your name. I said, I did. This is it. And he'd say, no, and we'd practice it, write it over and over and over again, and I'd have it, I'd be ready. And then I'd get to school, they say, write your name, my anxiety would go through the roof, and I'd draw myself, and that would be that. And I was doing this at a very young age. About third grade, I was tested, and they said, well, no wonder, he's dyslexic. And so that was kind of a point in my life where my journey was different, because we had realized that there was some type of issue, but nobody really knew what that was. And so I started learning how to pay attention to how people wanted to be communicated to, and how I could advocate for myself in one way or another to connect to these people and allow them to understand me, because the traditional ways weren't working. And it was a struggle. Literally, by my 9th grade year in high school, I was sure there was absolutely no way I'd graduate from high school. None. It just wasn't going to happen. And I was kind of just trying to figure out what was going to be next, right? And so at that point, I was very blessed to find a program called ACAT. And anyone from Santa Fe around that time may know about this program, but it was put together by Consuelo Gonzalez, and it was the Academy of Communication, Arts, and Technology. And it was for good students. I was not a good student. As a matter of fact, I begged her to get into the class. She gave me 1 semester to prove myself and said, if not, you're out. We only can take 100 students, and we need good, serious students. Well, 3 years later, I graduated from high school and was accepted to the worst design school in our country. And that was actually a huge win, because I didn't think I was going to make it at all. And so I packed up my little car and took off to Arizona, and I went to this little school. And I I started learning about visual communications. And I started learning about conceptual design and using a concept. And I started realizing that I actually had a superpower. And that superpower was the fact that I understood how people wanted to be communicated to. Not only how I should communicate, but how they wanted to be communicated to. And as I learned these tools, design, right? Communications, video, all of these different things, I was able to then use them to promote people's businesses and brands and even their, their personal brands, whatever it was. So that being said, how many of you in here have a business? Awesome. And how many of you are maybe doing a personal brand also, or that's all you're working on? Okay, so everybody in this room should be raising their hand when we talk about personal brand. That is something that's extremely important at this point in time. And the reason I know this is because I did not create a personal brand. I've developed some of the largest brands on the face of this planet. Nobody knows. And that's a problem. That's a problem for me, because now I have to sit here and say, I created some of the, and now I'm bragging is trash, right? People should know what I did, and if I would have put in the work beforehand, I wouldn't have to say it. So, toot your horn. Allow people to understand who you are, what you do, and what you're good at. It's extremely important not only for you, but the growth of your business. If you're growing a business brand, you should also be growing a personal brand. And if you're not growing a business brand, guess what? You should also be growing a personal brand. Either way, okay? So that being said, I want to go ahead and get into a little bit about what brand is. Anyone in here know what brand is? Go ahead, spit it out.
It's when people look at something that's about you, whether that's your name or your logo, they have an idea in mind of who you are and what you do.
Very good. Anyone else? Go ahead. Don't be shy, guys. I saw hands go up. No?
You make people feel.
Who said that? Oh, okay. Sorry, I got this little spotlight here. I can't see you guys anyways. But you guys, anyone else want to tune in on what brand is? Go ahead, ma'am.
How you're known.
How you're known. Okay.
I'm going to say it comes from the actions, not the words.
Okay.
That you perform.
What you're remembered by.
Okay.
What you stand for.
Yep.
The name.
Okay. What if I tell you you're all right? Okay? It is all of those things. And that's a lot of the times the problem. Brand is so incredibly diverse. How do you develop a strategy on deploying something that is so broad? Right? Like, if we want to launch a rocket, that's easy. It's one rocket. But if we want to shoot a shotgun, how do we hit one target? It's very, very difficult. And so that takes strategy, right? And so if I go over here and hit my own little button, let's see if I know how to do this. What is brand? That's what we're talking about right now. To get to strategy, we have to understand something. And so for me, what brand is your promise to your customer. Whatever that promise may be. And any of those things that you said can be within that promise, right? So that is something that needs to be developed. What is brand? It is the promise to your customer. Now from there, we can develop a strategy around that promise, right? Then there are two directions that we go. One is the identity of your brand. The other is your brand story, okay? So none of you said this, and I'm glad, but a brand is not a logo. Logo is just part of a brand. Now, does it need to be strong? Absolutely. If I get an arrow, and I shoot that arrow, and it has a sharp tip, that's like a logo. It's going to pass through without any work. It's going to be accepted at whatever target it's shot at. But if that logo isn't strong, like there's no tip on the front of that arrow, it's going to bounce right off. It won't stick. So is a logo important? Absolutely. But is it your entire brand? No. It's just your arrowhead. It's the tip of the sword, okay? We also have supporting elements, right? So things that need to be represented in a brand, supporting elements are imagery. How is your imagery deployed, right? Are they all black and white photos? Is it shallow depth of focus? Do we always have a human in them? Do we never have a human in them? Is it diverse in culture? How far do you go in diversity? How tight are you? These are all rules that need to be created around imagery so that every time people see your imagery, they know this is your brand. Supporting elements. Do we have textures that are involved? Do we have, I don't know, if you're a hunting company, do you have, I just did a brand for a bow hunting company. And we made one of their colors camo, right? And it's always a joke. What's your favorite color? Camo, right? But we actually created their own camo. And that is now part of their color palette, which is also part of their supporting element. So now anytime anybody sees that camo, they know it's a part of that brand. These are all important things. So even if your logo's not there, people still know that's you, okay? So supporting elements, logo. Voice, mission. Voice and mission, that's actually, that can go a lot of directions, right? Because we can create promises and reasons to believe, right? Multiple promises under our main promise. We can do pillars. There's a lot of directions to go there, and a lot of that's different depending on the type of company and how you want to communicate. The big thing to understand there is that we need for people to understand our story, and we need to do it in a voice that we want our demographic to be able to digest. Again, not how we want to say it, how we want them to hear it, or how they want to hear it, actually. And this brings me to a great point. When you develop a strong brand, or you have a trash brand, either one, who does that brand belong to? Anyone? Ta-da! It absolutely does not belong to you. It belongs to your customer, and it belongs to your future customers. It is your business's brand for them. And so that's the way you need to think when you're developing a brand. This is not yours. It's not about what you like, what you don't like. Oh, I really, really, really like chartreuse. Your customer doesn't care. Because it's not about what you like, it's about what they like, right? I did this awesome, so the first company that actually dared to hire me was a startup shoe company. It was called Vivans, and actually, a few of the shoe stores carried their shoes downtown. It's a long time ago, here in Durango. And so this gentleman hired me and said, I want you to develop a brand for my shoe company that I'm going to start up. And so we got to work. And it was the first one I ever did. And we developed everything, right? We started with the strategy, into the logo, the voice, supporting elements, the trade show booths. Believe it or not, and this is kind of crazy, there were no e-commerce websites at that point in time. They didn't exist yet. So the way people bought things, it's crazy, but they went into stores. And then they tried them on and made sure they fit, made sure they liked them, and then they'd actually go to the cash register and pay people, other people, either cash or with a card, and it was nuts. Like they talked to people, they weren't in their house. And so it was a crazy time. And so we built this brand, and I made the trade show booth look like the inside of a shoe store because it made sense. Where do you buy shoes, right? Now just make it look like a screen. And so, you know, we did this whole thing. We spent about $60,000 to go to this show. And I went and I bought the best suit I could afford from Burlington Coat Factory. Now, I thought brown was going to be awesome. So I got a cream shirt, orange tie, brown jacket, brown boots, and I thought I looked great. And so I show up at this trade show, walk in, and I have this booth I designed, and it's sick, right? And I didn't design the shoes. I gotta make sure and say that. And it's about to open. WSA show, biggest show on the face of the planet. And so I go out to the front because I want to see the people as they're coming in. It's nothing but Denali's, limos, town cars, all in black. Every door that's opening, these people are coming out so beautifully dressed. They're in all black on black Versace. They're in, I mean, these are, and I didn't even know what those brands were at this point. And I'm looking at all these people, and then I'm looking at myself, and I, at that point, realized I had no idea what I was doing. And they realized it too. So that whole show goes by, we don't sell one pair of shoes. $60,000 spent for a 2-day show, and we don't sell one pair of shoes. We come back home, and the owner of the company says, what happened? And I was very honest with him, and I told him, your shoes are ugly. He says, no way it was my brand. And he said, why not? And I had thought this through. He went to Guadalajara and León, Mexico. He went into the manufacturers and he grabbed the shoes off the wall. And he grabbed shoes that looked like shoes he had seen before. That's what we put on our wall. As people walked by, they looked over, there was nothing there. Those shoes were from last season or the season before. They were things that were already created. The other thing is, we didn't solve any problems. None. We didn't do anything different, and we weren't filling any holes. There was nothing different or needed about what we were doing. So they wouldn't even look in. The other thing is, I was dressed like trash, so that was a problem too. So he would say, do you want to meet my designer? And they'd look at me and walk off. I'm not kidding. So he said, all right, well, what do you think? Can you do better? I lied and said yes. I didn't know how to design shoes. I had never designed shoes. I had no education in designing any type of product in general. I was a visual communications major in my first job. And so he said, all right, well, what do you need? And I said, I want to go to Florida and I want to go to Scottsdale, Arizona, because it was winter in New Mexico and there were no sandals, but he wanted me to create him a line of sandals. So I took a notebook, because you couldn't sneak pictures with a cell phone, because cell phones didn't have cameras. And I went from boutique to boutique and I drew shoes. And I did this on both trips. And when I got back, I designed a line of shoes. He approved about 50 different designs. We jumped on a plane, we went to Guadalajara and León. And these men, well-dressed, very serious men, in Spanish, talked about the gringo and how I had no idea what I was gonna do and that I shouldn't be there. Now this is before I opened my mouth. The funny thing is they had no idea that I knew Spanish fluently and could understand everything they were saying. And so when it came time to open my mouth, I opened the book, I gave them all their copy, kind of like I did here. And I started speaking in Spanish and explaining to them how I wanted them to make my shoes. And they were embarrassed, but we actually ended up making a great relationship. 3 years later, we had 300 stores, including Neiman Marcus, off of my designs. But it was because we figured out what was missing and we solved a problem. We had a strategy. So now I bring you, for your brand, to strategy, right? Without that, really, what are we doing here? But, let's see how much time we have, because I want to do some stuff with you guys. Cool. But to get to strategy, individually, you guys need to create a promise. So what I'd really like you guys to do is take about 5 minutes and just write down what is your promise, either for your personal brand or your business brand, to your customer or to your future customer. And if you guys have any questions while you're doing this, let's go ahead and talk about it. There's actually a 15-word minimum. No, just kidding. It doesn't matter how long it is. Awesome. No, yes. Guys, the simpler, the better. So sometimes when you're writing copy, it's like, all right, well, I can write you 3 pages in about an hour, or I can write you 1 sentence, but it's going to take me 3 weeks, right? Because something simply said is always harder to do than something that is robust. So if you have a simple statement, you're already ahead of the game. It's called Vivans.
Is it?
Vivans.
Vivans?
Yeah.
Are you involved with them at all anymore?
No, we got absorbed by a much bigger company.
Oh, okay. Vivans. Cool.
We were direct competition with Born, Echo. So it's a very comfort-oriented shoe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Born. I'm made in England. I don't shop them very much.
So do you see the way Born looks today?
Yeah.
It's because of me.
Oh,
I'm not kidding. Yeah, because we brought in, I brought in all the different textiles. I brought in the weaves. I brought in like asymmetrical designs. If you ever see something that's asymmetrical but balanced. So it was, all this stuff. And
did you provide anything like the shoe to sandal concept, like a Keen or a Tiva or anything like that?
I did. So, I mean, it all came off of like the Huarache style shoe, right? Which is that very like strappy. So in Mexico, they'll cut a sole out of a tire and then create leather straps. And that's a Huarache, right? And that's something that you can go buy in Mexico. So then, an upgraded version would be like a polyurethane sole, hand sewn, beautifully done, actually comfortable. And so those are kind of the steps to our now you have like Keen, Tiva, that have turned it into, they've turned it more of a sport thing, yeah. Yeah, it's really cool, really cool. All right, guys, is anybody ready to share? I want to hear two things. What is your company and what is your promise? All right, we got one right here. Yeah.
Hey everybody, my name is Christine Jones. I'm from Pagosa Springs, Colorado. And I own the Lantern Dancer Gallery, which is a 30-year-old Native American jewelry store. It has a really cool history, but I've only owned it for 3 years. So we've been doing some updating and kind of reaching out to a younger clientele a little bit. And our promise is keeping you Western, your way. And it used to be Santa Fe quality, Pagosa prices, but Pagosa's not cheap anymore. So.
Okay, so tell me that promise again.
Keeping you Western your way.
So keeping you Western your way.
Yeah.
And it's jewelry, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I understand keeping you Western.
Yeah.
That is very obvious, which is great because now I know I'm not going to show up in there and I don't know, I'm not going to have Biggie playing on the radio, and I'm not going to buy a suit like I did at Burlington Coat Factory, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be a Western look.
Yeah.
But explain to me the your way part. Why is that important?
Do you want me to say on the microphone?
I'm sure if you'd like.
Okay, so Western culture has taken like a really big turn with like NFR and different like fashion shows and stuff like that. And so now girls are not always wearing cowboy boots. They're wearing like Pumas and sneakers and stuff like that with sequins, and it's just a lot more bougie and it's gotten a lot more flashy.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so basically what we're talking about is the evolution of Western, right? And so the cool thing about evolution is that it also gives room for change, which is individuality. And so what I think is great about your promise is that it's not only about what we do, but it's also so that you can do what you do. And when you tie that in, now we're speaking their language instead of ours, because come see us so you can better do what you do, your way, right? So that's awesome. You guys raise your hand. What do you guys want to?
All right, so Bruce Jones, also from Pagosa. This is my wife. Lars and I own Mountain Men Disaster Mitigation. So our brand promises to provide prompt, reliable, and professional service to our clients in their time of need.
Awesome. And so when you say reliable, tell me a little bit about your company real quick.
So if a pipe breaks in your house, catches on fire 24 hours a day, you're panicked, you're stressed, scared, things like that, worried, you want to be able to get a hold of somebody.
Awesome.
So being reliable means we answer 24 hours a day, we show up 24 hours a day, we are there to answer all your questions and give you that peace of mind.
Okay, awesome. So what I would try to do is shorten that and make it maybe an emotional connection, because when you tell me pipe broke, immediately it's stress, right? So now I'm thinking about this is stressful, this is expensive, this is scary. What are the elements out of stressful, expensive, and scary you can take out of the situation?
Marriage.
That's brilliant. So I would say you can at least get rid of stressful. It's probably still going to be expensive, and it's still scary. But when someone shows up and they know what they're doing, now it's not stressful anymore. That stress goes away, and now it's on you guys to fix it. So what I would try to do with your promise, it's a good promise, but what's the emotional connection for them? Because
tagline on your shirt.
I don't see it.
Oh yeah, small town hospitality without the Pagosa time mentality.
Oh, that's cool, right? Yeah, you guys are working it. So yeah, so a lot of times the promise, we can state facts, but are we making an emotional connection? That's also very important, right? So when she said your way, that's emotional to me because now I can choose how to be a cowboy or cowgirl.
You got this.
Either way. I got this. Anyone else? Don't be scared.
We'll go.
All right, cool.
So my name's Derek, and we started Blues Baits 5 years ago. We're a custom tackle manufacturer, probably the largest manufacturer in the state of New Mexico.
Okay.
So we have 2 branded promises. We put it on our packages. Our first one is fish with confidence with our fish and tackle. Our second one is we make it right, whatever that is, whether the transaction went bad or whether you need to bring a product back, whether you opened your package and you didn't have that great of a feeling that you weren't serviced the best product possible. Doesn't matter what it is, we're going to make it right for the consumer.
Okay, awesome. Did everybody hear that? Okay. So, what was the first one again? And I'll just repeat the first. I want to repeat that.
Fish with confidence.
Okay, so the first one is fish with confidence, right? And they manufacture bait and tackle?
Fish and tackle.
Fish and tackle. Okay. So this is actually really smart, right? So we're talking about fish with confidence. Now, if you're a fisherman and you want to be, you're out there, maybe you've saved up a whole year to go do a trip like this. You want to make sure that your equipment is doing its job, right? That's important. So knowing that you can be confident in that part gives you one less thing to worry about. That, again, strikes an emotional connection. You are eliminating stress knowing that I can be confident knowing that what I have is going to work. But the other thing is we make it right. Hey, guys, just in case it doesn't work, we're going to send you another one. We're going to take care of it. But that's actually what I took from it. Just after you explained it, I did. When you said we make it right, really what I thought you were just saying is we stand behind our product because we know it's made right. And that tells me that you guys are confident.
Absolutely.
So your confidence is now the fisherman's confidence.
Yeah, whatever it is, we'll make it right. It doesn't matter.
Right. And so that's a great promise, right? We're confident in what we do, so you can be confident in what you do with it.
Yeah.
Right? So awesome, guys. Good job. Anyone else? Okay. You want the mic? You can have the mic.
I'm Heidi Stelzer. I'm a professor up at Fort Lewis College. My expertise is in environmental science. And I've opened a new business, the Heidi Mountains Cooperative. And so this is more in the space of personal brand.
Okay.
Along with how to solve a problem. We have a climate crisis that is huge. And it's not just climate that's impacting us. There's so many elements of our world that feel distant, difficult, scary. And so in that space, the promise is for each of us to feel a part of creating heaven on earth. And where and how do we do that? By unifying science and religion instead of seeing the space that we've been pulled in, which is we get to pick one flavor or the other flavor when we can have the swirl. Okay, so real quick, just tell me the promise. Because there's some really great things in there, and I want you to extract it. For each of us to feel a part of creating heaven on earth.
For each of us, okay. So yeah, so that's great. I love the one flavor, the other flavor when you can have the swirl. I really, no, so write that down, put that in there, because I think that being a part of the promise could be huge for your strategy as far as going on. And maybe it doesn't have to be a reference to ice cream. Maybe, I mean, you just say heaven on earth, and I think there's probably ice cream in heaven, absolutely. Right? Right, especially like a good guilt-free, like keto, sugar-free ice cream, then I could eat as much as I want. But yeah, that's great. Did you want to jump on?
Yeah, I'll go.
Cool.
Yeah. Hi everybody, I'm Chase Reed from Salt Lake City, Utah.
I did drive here last night to be here with you guys. So, thank you for the Durango hospitality. It's been fun, actually. I'm a real estate agent, and my slogan is mentoring your home experience. And so the promise is to elaborate on that. So I promise to mentor you when you buy, sell, invest, rent, upkeep / maintenance, design, and even protect.
What? Tell me that slogan again.
Mentoring your home experience.
So that's actually really strong, right? Because when we're purchasing a home or selling a home, most of the time none of us, we don't really know exactly what we're doing, right? And so I talked about my grandfather earlier, right? And so now my grandfather is over 80. And he has had an amazing life, and he's done amazing things. And he has always been this strong pillar, community-wise, business-wise, and family-wise. But at this point in his life, he's now struggling with some dementia. And this is a heartbreaking thing because this strong man is slowly becoming weaker and weaker, more confused, and it's actually a very difficult thing to deal with. Now, my grandmother, who's already passed away, and him, they raised multiple families. They raised their families, then they raised me and my brother, and they helped with my cousins, and so they never put money away. But the one thing they did do is purchase a beautiful home. And so at a point when they wanted to stop working, their retirement was they took a reverse mortgage. Now, anyone can have an opinion about that. It can go either way. But what worked for them was that they got rid of their mortgage now that they're older. Now, he's going to need help. We can help, and we'll figure it out. But one of the things that everybody's looking at is, do we sell the house? Right? Now, and then I'm going to stop right there. That's the problem. Do we sell the house? Now, if I go and I look for a realtor, and 99% of them say, we are here to help you buy your dream home. Because a lot of realtors like to say that. Does that pertain to me or to most situations? Probably not. As a matter of fact, it just sounds like a generic term that was easy to say and that required not a lot of thought. But if somebody is looking to mentor me through my situation, that's something I can trust and something that would give me interest, right? Whether I'm buying or selling this home that is coming up within a situation that's not ideal. So the other thing is, if I really am looking to buy my dream home, I think I'd like to be mentored through that also. So a statement like that sounds like a promise to me, and that sounds something that is actually thought through for real customers in real life that actually just need to get from point A to point B and want some guidance. So that's awesome, man. Great job on that. Anyone else? Do you want the mic?
I guess so.
Let's get it.
So I am transitioning right now in my business, but one of my businesses is spray tanning.
Okay.
Elevation massage and spray tanning. And I put down a few things, but then I went to my website and I said, I consider spray tanning my art and your skin my canvas.
That's awesome. That's actually super fun. Super duper fun. Where's your business?
In Durango.
Okay. And so you have a brick and mortar business in Durango now. Okay, cool. That's awesome. Have you used that before, or is that
it's on my website.
Okay.
But I haven't really used it as my, I mean, I believe it. It really is where it comes from in my work.
Okay.
But I haven't really used that
Right.
tagline.
Well, so here's the thing. Our promise, it doesn't always have to see or be seen by our customer. Mm-hmm. We have to understand our promise. The brand has to communicate the promise, but it doesn't always have to communicate it by saying exactly what we said, right? So there are times where we have a brand promise that is for us to understand, and then we communicate it in many different ways, and that's where we come down to strategy, right? So it's really up to you to decide if that's something that you want to push out and say, this is how I want to communicate to my customer because I think this is what they want to hear. Or if you say, this is really my brand promise, this is what I do, but I want to communicate to them because I feel like they'd rather hear it this way or that way. And that's strategy. So it's very acute, it's very direct, and it makes a lot of sense. What I would say is really put some thought through, does the customer want to have that delivered to them in that way? Or would there be a better way to do that that might be more broad and more serving? And that's something that we're not going to figure out in the next 10 minutes. That's something that we would sit down and talk about for sure. But I love the thought, and that's that's great. Anyone else? We have probably about 10 minutes. Oh, in the back. Oh, I'm working my way back, but no, it's okay here. It's on my way. We have time.
My name is Claire, and I'm the social media manager for Durango Hot Springs. And currently, our promise is to provide a place to embrace your soul and revive your spirit.
Say that one more time.
Provide a place to embrace your soul and revive your spirit.
So to embrace your soul and revive your spirit, right? Is that what you said? So where did that come from? How did you guys get to that?
Oh gosh. We did a branding workshop when Trimble was first purchased, and then it changed to Durango Hot Springs. That was the first things that came up. And
okay. So then I'll help you get to that. So what do you think people are looking for when they go to the hot springs?
Relax.
To relax? Yeah, rejuvenate. There we go. So that's part of the reviving your soul, right? Mm-hmm. And then what was the second part?
Oh, so embrace your soul and revive your spirit.
Okay, embrace your soul and revive your spirit. So that would be part of the reviving of the spirit, and then embracing your soul. I would think that what you're saying is we're giving you some time to stop, think, and do something for yourself. And I don't think anything's more personal than our soul. So that makes sense. So I'm sure you guys did some great work with that, and that's super cool. Have you guys developed that into a strategy, into a marketing strategy? Or?
We're working on it.
You're working on it? Well, let me know. I'd love to talk to you guys about it. That's great. Anyone? Okay, let me get back. Let me get to the back. Hands again. Okay, cool.
I'm Jason McCormick. This is my wife Scarlett. So we have an interesting story with our business. So I come from the world of home security. I was employed by ADT for many years, and I decided to open up an ADT authorized dealership in Durango. So in the corporate world, ADT's nickname is Big Blue.
Okay.
So I named my company Big Blue Protections. Well, shortly after we opened last year, ADT decided they didn't want to service Durango anymore. They said it's too far from Albuquerque. And so we were like, okay, well, we still have this Big Blue name. We were clinging to or riding on the ADT brand, which, as you guys probably all know, the ADT brand, it's the biggest in the security world. So we were trying to figure out, do we stay with Big Blue? And we really believed that we had a good name. So with the help of Ben, wherever he's at.
There he is.
Our promise, our slogan is, it's your world, Big Blue, we help protect it.
Oh, that's great. So. Good pivot, Ben. And that is how you don't have to buy new signage, don't have to get new business cards. Well done. Anyone else? That's great.
My name is Anna Hopkins Arnold. I have two businesses. One does done-for-you genealogy research, which is Root Finders Genealogy Research. It's been around since 2011. But I am transitioning to Learn Genealogy Academy, where I'm going to teach curious descendants the skills that they need to solve their family history mysteries and pass on their genealogy so they can keep their ancestor stories alive.
I love that. What's your promise?
My promise is to teach them those skills.
Okay.
And help them to share them with family to keep those stories alive. And there's a study that says that children who understand their family history and know their origins have more resilience. So especially in our changing world, I think that raising kids with more resilience is going to be important.
Awesome. So what I would do is I would consolidate all of that and say something like, We help you understand your past to have a more resilient future.
Oh, I love it.
Okay? And that's a promise, right? Now you're promising that. Also, history mystery is freaking cool. So if you can do something with that, you said it, I didn't. The history mystery is awesome. So yeah, but that's awesome. Super, super cool. Anyone else?
Time for one more.
Okay. Here you go.
So my name is Nicole Byram, and I started a business called Colorado Concierge, and that is just kind of piggybacking off what I've done previously in another town, kind of being property management. I wanted to broaden it for the clientele here in Durango. So my brand promise is to provide exceptional services for your unique lifestyle. So we offer property management services, lifestyle management, and vacation experiences. And we're kind of targeting towards a demographic of people that are obviously coming to visit, locals, and then second homeowners.
Awesome. Say your promise one more time.
To provide exceptional services for your unique lifestyle.
Awesome. So on this one, and I'm not being hard on you, but I'm going to be a little hard on you. Yeah. So it's a little generic. Yeah. What I'd like you to do is figure out how to plug exactly what you do and then finish it. So say it for me one more time. Maybe we figure it out right now.
Say this one again?
Yeah. Say
to provide exceptional services for your unique lifestyle.
Okay, so I love unique lifestyle, right? Because nobody cares more about anyone else's lifestyle than we do about our own. And we all think that ours is super unique, right? So that's great. But if I tell you, oh, hey man, hi, I provide exceptional services. How are you?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, exceptional services and then you ask me what, and then I'll tell you whatever that may be. So what I want you to do is just make sure that exceptional services is defined. Okay. And then it's great.
And then so you would say like exceptional services in the 3 areas that I offer, or just come up with something more unique?
I mean, if you can gang those areas up, but if those are your verticals and that's what's important, if you and I were in an elevator, you'd want me to know what those are. So if you know, there's nice to have and need to have, right? And so sometimes we have this sexy thing that rolls off the tongue, and sometimes we have to list a few things, and that's okay too. Okay. Just so we understand that it's the promise, and then we're building the strategy off of that. So it doesn't always have to be customer facing, right? We can figure that out. But yeah, that's great. Thank you. All right, I'm gonna make my way to the front before Ben rings a bell on us. So you guys are all amazing. Thank you so much. I didn't know how this was going to go because I could have very easily just had nobody want to talk. But you guys are great. Here's the thing. Take those sheets with you. Look at those promises. If you can shorten them. If you can make them more specific, make them more specific. And just think about how your customer wants to be spoken to. Really take yourself out of the equation. Remember, your brand belongs to your customer. At that point, if you don't already have that, it would be time to develop a strategy. From that strategy, it would be time to build an identity, to build your story. And then from there, that is where this content is created. And this is how we end up with continuity. Okay? So websites, advertising, the look and feel, the way we speak to people, all of those things, by following what's created here, right here, this is how we get continuity here. And that's why if I blindfold you right now and take you into a McDonald's, and maybe you haven't been there in 50 years, 40 years, 20 years, 10 years, 1 year. If I pull that blindfold off, you'll know exactly where you are. And why? Because they follow their strategy and then they implement that into every tool they have. But it all started with a promise. And that's what you guys are developing today. If you guys have any questions, need any help, go ahead.
Just want to know your company. What's your company?
I'm with Ascent.
Oh, pardon?
I'm with Ascent Digital.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And so if you guys have any questions, there's 2 codes on there. One of them is directly to my Instagram. Follow me, ask me questions. I love interacting with people. I don't only do this, I actually love doing it. It is my thing. The other one is if you want to set up an appointment, you can scan the other one. It'll go directly to Ben's Calendly, right? And you can set up an appointment. We'll jump on the phone and start talking about options and what to do to move on from where we left off today. But I really appreciate you all. Thank you for coming, and have a great day.